Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. It has been forever since I've done anything on this channel, and also forever since I've worn this hat, so now it feels weird because I have so much hair now. So, real off the cuff, decided I wanted to do this because I forgot that Xbox was even doing a thing, watched it while I was at work. It was only an hour, so it was very easy, and it was meh. It was real meh, and I finished it up when I got back home, and I was just like, that was real meh, but I want to talk about it. So it was like, kind of meh, garbage, sort of poo-poo water. But I made a list anyway, so I was like, why not go through this list? Couple things. State of Decay 3. The trailer looked good, and then I was disappointed because it was State of Decay. So I was like, that sucks. Not that the game sucks. I just have never had any interest in that game. I didn't even really know what the game was like. I just knew that I'd seen enough to be like, I don't even like that. Like, I thought it was only online, which I found out when I watched a review of the second game, that they added multiplayer for the second one. And I was like, oh, I thought it was just like kind of an online thing and you just survive zombies, but also people. I thought it was like not really meant to be a battle royale, but kind of just like an open world type of thing. It's kind of sort of that, but it doesn't have a story. And I was kind of excited, like, oh, some crazy dark, weird monster, zombie sort of story. And it was State of Decay. And I was like, oh, that's okay. Psychonauts 2 actually looked pretty sweet. Jack Black was in it, so that was nice, and it gave me this little glint in my heart where I was like, man, Brutal Legend. Really would have loved for that to get a sequel. Brutal Legend. But no, neither is Condemned or Dead Space. My life sucks. All the things I love, they die. What is that? Oh, I didn't put environment. I can't even read. I was rushing through clearly when I was writing. Everwild, I think was the name of the game. It made me think of like a witchy version of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where it was like they kind of had witch powers, but also like elemental powers. So that one looked cool, and it's from Rare, so it probably won't be as dark. It didn't seem dark, but I was like, it feels like it could get at least somewhat mature and serious with like death and stuff like that, and them trying to save potentially the forest. So we'll see how that works out. It looks cool for sure. I always like that art style, so that was interesting. I just like Hellblade, and I wrote here, Hellblade, I hate Iceland. That's from a YouTube video. You can look it up. And that was just like my only note. That's really all they showed us. It was just like, it takes place in Iceland. And I was just like, I hate Iceland, because that's a funny video to me. Obsidian. I just thought that was funny, because I'm like, clearly, they're coming for Bethesda. That was just about it. It was like, oh, you got a sword? Like, sure. And then, boom, magic in one hand, sword in the other. And I was like, huh, you don't say, from Obsidian. So we'll see how that plays out. I think it would be really cool. And it seems like that's their next really big thing. Like, a lot of things that people say for like Outer Worlds is that it was more like a double A title instead of a triple A title. And I feel like this is them going triple A officially. And we'll see. Even if it's not, it'll still, clearly, it's still them being like, hey, magic and whatnot, and swords and shields, and sword in one hand, shield in the other, or magic in the other, or double magic. Maybe, we'll see if they end up doing that, but I don't see why not. If Skyrim can come out 1,800 times, everybody might as well have it in all of their games from here on out. Like, if that one game can do it 800 times, everybody else can do it once. So it might as well be that. But we'll see what happens with that. Building it from the ground up. So I'm curious how it'll play out. And I'm sure, we'll see what happens by the time that game comes out. What else Bethesda has outside of really bad PR at the moment. So we'll see what happens. But I thought that was super funny. I was like, that's interesting. Obsidian also did Grounded. That just seemed cool. I love, they were just silly in the trailers, like, wait for the best game ever. We'll wait for Cyberpunk. But, if you're not looking for the best game ever, or the best game of the year, check this out. Survival co-op. I was like, that seems cool. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but more dangerous. So I was like, I kind of want to see some gameplay of that. And it comes out really soon. I'm sure there are announcements for that, even though everything is always exclusive this and exclusive that for Xbox. Although they definitely put it in there a bunch. World premiere, console launch exclusive, this and that. Classic thing with them. But it looked cool, so I was like, all right, I like that. The Warhammer, the zombie one, I was like, I like zombies, but I probably won't play it. Dark Tide is the actual name. What else I got here? Oh, Crossfire X. If you don't know why I did that, the Crossfire thing, just look it up on YouTube. You're probably just younger than me. That's the only reason you wouldn't know that. I love Remedy, so that's the only reason I care. Buy Alan Wake. That's the only reason that's back there, by the way. Buy Alan Wake. Buy Control. Buy Max Payne. Buy Quantum Break. I love all those. I like Quantum Break, but I love everything else. Quantum Break was good. It just wasn't. It wasn't Alan Wake, Control, Max Payne levels. But it's still good. It's still an entertaining game. It's just not on that hype level. The powers are cool. It's definitely a fun game to play, and the story is certainly interesting. Oh, speaking of cliffhangers, dang, that one ends on a cliffhanger too. We'll see what happens. They made another game, so they might actually pull a lot of stuff together because they're supposed to be doing some stuff to kind of conclude the cliffhanger we have for Alan Wake as well. So they keep making games, and they just don't ever they keep torturing us, like the people that love their games, and they just keep torturing us with like these cliffhangers. So I don't know what's gonna happen. That means I'm supposed to clock out of work. Don't ask questions. So we'll see what happens with that. But for anyone who doesn't know what Crossfire X even is, I had to look this up because it, they specified in the thing, it was like, this is the single player premiere. And I was like, oh, so there must be content for the multiplayer aspect. Because that's what I thought it was. I thought it really was just multiplayer only. And then it was like, surprise, they're single player. So I was like, well, dang. I thought it was just Remedy's doing like an interesting shooter, and I was like, okay, well that should be something. So I want to see what it's about. And then it was like, no, they're doing the story. There's still, that multiplayer component is still the big thing, and it was a Chinese PC game, and it was PC only. And then they brought it over and up the graphics and whatnot. And so now it's Crossfire X, and it's for consoles and PC and everywhere outside of China, or some places outside of China. So it looks cool. And then the story element, I was just like, well, I love Remedy and I love their stories. And this seems to be classic Remedy, at least like the last two things they did with Control and Quantum Break. They're just like, let's do weird stuff. Let's just do like dimension. I can't even explain Control, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know if it's time or it's dimension based. It's both. It's weird. It's amazing though. And then Quantum Break is a straight up time travel game, which is really fun. They do some cool stuff with it. So this same thing, somehow this woman knows this guy's future is to basically become the villain, which that was the thing that caught my attention the most. So I was like, he's basically a good guy who knows he's going to become the bad guy, and he's trying to fight becoming the villain. That's just a great concept to me. I thought that was really cool. And then just the way he fought, and like he's like super strong. He basically was like the dude from Crisis, but a pure villain. So I was like, well, that seems really cool. So I'm really excited for that one. So I was like, that actually looks cool. We'll just have to see. It definitely has that sort of Call of Duty style where, it was the trailer. So it was like cinematic set piece, throwing bombs at a van and this and that. So I was like, I want it, but I am cautious. Is it going to be that quick thing because it's Remedy, or is it going to be Remedy where they're doing a full-on experience? So I'm very curious how that's really going to play out, because it wasn't from them from the ground up. It's literally like, this is an online game, and then we also got Remedy. So, it's like, how much is Remedy putting into it? What should we expect from this multiplayer, or from the single player, compared to a game that was literally made as a multiplayer game? So I'm excited because I love Remedy and what they do, and this seems like classic Remedy, where it's a dude who knows what his future is going to be, but he's trying to change it, and also just a cool, shoot 'em up game where this guy has like this crazy curved knife, and he's can turn invisible and like slice through people. Like, it just looked really cool. The action looked great, and the set pieces seemed cool. But I love their storytelling, so I'm excited for this one. I'm just cautious because it wasn't like their game from the ground up, but it was their story. So there's still that element of like, how much of it do they really want Remedy to be involved? Because the game was already made, so how much of it is like single player, Remedy. So see about that, but definitely excited. And then my number one thing is definitely the medium. That just looked great. I was like, that right there, that was the best thing in the entire freaking show. Like, I was like, this looks fantastic. I like Crossfire because I love Remedy, but that, I was like, I love horror. Horror is my favorite genre. And then it was just weird and like demonic, and it was like, this woman is going through, and it's I assume split screen because they talk about the two worlds being rendered. So based on what they showed in the trailer, I think that's what the game actually looks like. Because I was like, okay, well, if it's two worlds being rendered, that's just, like, there are games that have done that before where it's like, oh, so you just swap back and forth. But the way they showed it, I'm like, I think that's actually what happens, is that you see both worlds rendered at the same time. At some points, at least. Maybe you get to choose when you can split screen it. I'm not 100% certain because obviously it's a trailer. It could be that that's the case, or they were just showing that like, this is how different the worlds look, and you instantly flip a switch, and then it's like, holy crap, look how different it is. But the way they kept showing split screen several different times throughout the trailer, I was like, huh, maybe you can actually do that. I don't know. Either way, it looked crazy, and I was like, yep, I want to get that game. So that one got me. It'll look great on my computer because I'm not going to buy an Xbox, but it'll look really cool. And Halo looked like Halo. So that's what I thought about the Xbox thing. Would love to know your thoughts on it. Thanks for checking this out. I know this was dumb, but that was kind of the point. The conference was dumb. Just my personal thoughts on it. Still no price. They're playing that freaking game. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not going to get an Xbox anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm waiting to see what the PS5 costs. I don't hate Xbox, by the way. I should probably say that. Like, I feel like I'm kind of harping on them a little bit. It was just a really meh thing. Like, Halo just looked like Halo. Like, I don't play Halo, but I can still be excited for a Halo trailer. Like, even when Halo Infinite was first announced, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And this literally was like, that looks like a map that I've seen in Halo 2. And it literally, I feel like it was. Like, I don't play Halo, but I was like, it's not like, oh, that kind of, it reminds me of Halo. It was literally like, that just looks like one of the maps I've seen in Halo before. And the enemies weren't super special. There was like the ones with the red armor. I think they're new, I assume. He had the cool, grapple hook. I was like, well, that's a cool new feature. I felt like they should have shown that off a little bit more. I felt like they should have shown a portion that utilized it a little bit better, but this seemed like a weird portion of the show. It was clearly after the beginning of the game, because the way the guy spoke to him was like, ever since I found you, it's been trouble. So I think this is probably like maybe even 3 or 4 missions in, and it wasn't just like that that was the beginning of the game, and then they went to that first planet. And I was like, they probably did that because, the epic stuff that you would have seen would have been spoiled. But I was like, I feel like they should have chose a better portion, because it didn't even seem like a cool action scene. It was just like, that was like the most generic, like, oh, you went from point A to point B and you shot random stuff. He got in a turret. That was probably like the most special thing he did weapon wise. And I was just like, nothing here was really spectacular. And the one big thing that was new, which was the grapple hook, if I'm not mistaken, they show, it's like, oh, he went up once and he pulled an enemy towards him. Either he pulled the enemy towards him, or the enemy was too big. They probably have that in there. The small enemies get pulled towards you. The bigger ones, you get pulled towards them. And then he pulled a container and then he launched it. And I was like, oh, okay. Halo looks like Halo. Like, they didn't choose any sort of unique place to go to. It was literally just like, it's mountains and some silver. And I was like, that's what you guys picked, huh? Genius. Personal opinion. I'd love to know what you guys thought. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Like, dislike, the generic things if you like. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.